And we don't know just like exactly how good the Vikings are. We know the Commanders aren't good. That's not to take away from his performance. I think he's been incredible. He's doing exactly what I wanted him to do. He is proving a lot of people wrong, which we love to see. I know Jalen Hurts loves proving people wrong.
Bird 365 on a football Friday. Garrett Brooks in for Johnny Mack. We've got an hour left to play here, and we're going to spend a good chunk of it with our next guest. We've never had the pleasure of having here on Birds 365. You've seen her plenty here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, specifically on the Eagles Postgame Show. We're glad to have her with us here on Birds 365. Devan Kaney. Devan, appreciate you coming on board. How the hell have you not been on the show so far?
I don't know. I was just going to say, I mean, I'm honored. Thank you for having me on. But like, guys, been waiting on my invite.
Well, hey, I'm telling you, I'm not one of the Macs. I'm Barrett. Even though me and Mac have the same haircut, I'm not him. I'm Barrett. What's up, man? How you doing, Devin?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for hopefully another Eagles win. Now only undefeated team in the league, which I can't believe. So yeah, doing good on this Friday morning. How are you guys?
Very good.
Can't wait.
You mentioned the Eagles undefeated. So that means you've had 3 victorious post-game shows to do so far. We'll see if you get a 4th one this Sunday. What's been the most fun about getting together with the guys on Eagles post-game show so far?
Oh, it's been a blast so far. I mean, this Eagles season as a whole has been fun just watching them win. I know it's been only 3 games, but I've had the most fun watching the Eagles than I've had since 2017, 2018 season. I don't want to jinx it by saying that. But it's been a blast going down to Atlantic City. You know, we get to do the show from the gallery in Ocean Casino Resort, which is amazing.
It is. It's really nice.
It's really nice. For me personally, they hooked me up with the best sponsor ever in Mark's Jewelers. So I get to do a diamond debate segment, which means that every Sunday or Monday night, I'm given a different piece of jewelry from Mark's Jewelers. And it's a lot of bling. So it's been fun for me to rock that and kind of do that segment. Sometimes I'm like, this is too much responsibility though. Like you guys are really trusting me to wear this $50,000 necklace. Like, I don't know if I would do that, but I'll take it.
No question. You know, working with I worked with Seth for the past 6 years. He's one of those guys that, you know, you got to know what's going on, you know, and he's very passionate about his Eagles too. How is it working with Seth? You know, because I mean, I worked with the other 2 before also, but Seth has always been a guy that, you know, we're well respected as far as our football knowledge, but he's more of, I'm the glass half full, he's the glass half empty. How's it work for Seth, like working with Seth that way?
It's amazing. Okay, so I mean this in the best way, Seth, if you're watching, if you're listening, he is the most intimidating person I've ever met in my life.
I can see that. Yes, I'll second that motion.
Right? But in a good way. Like he has he's so knowledgeable. And I always kind of have a pinch me moment because we watched the game in like a private room upstairs at the gallery. And just hearing his commentary throughout the game, I'm like, how lucky am I? Like, I'm literally sitting in a room and Seth Joyner's breaking down the game, pointing out things that I wouldn't have noticed. And same with D-Gun and Mike Missinelli. Like, these guys are just seeing things that it's really enlightening, and I'm learning so much from them. But he's been great. Like, I think a lot of people ask me, they're like, how, like, aren't you nervous or scared? And like, yes, Seth Joyner is an intimidating human in general. I mean, he played in the NFL, of course, but they're all so nice and respectful. And
yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
The persona's there. But once the camera's off,
yeah,
one of the nicest guys in the world, very personable guy. You really get to know. And when he really gets comfortable with you, then he starts to really growl and starts talking about, you know, Gannon will never, I mean, they'll go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's my favorite thing to do is like to try to make Seth smile, whether it's on the air or off. Like I tried it for 6
years. I tried it for 6 years. It just didn't work. I tried for 6 years.
I think I've gotten like glimpses. Yeah. I've gotten like a soft smile, like no teeth yet, but maybe a little chuckle here and there. I'm like, yes.
Good luck with that one, Devin. All right. Here's where I want to take you next. Know you're busy and popular on social media, doing shows on WIP as well now these days, so you're interacting with Eagle fans.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle Nation with Jalen Hurts. Certainly he was one of those guys who there was split opinions. Some had already made him as good as Patrick Mahomes, and others had said, this guy's got no chance. We're wasting our time. Why don't we get our next future quarterback ready to go? Well, he's played a lot closer to Mahomes than he is. We need to move on from Jalen Hurts. But you get the feedback from Eagle fans. How much has he actually moved the needle? To those who were somewhere in the middle between, this guy stinks, we got to get rid of him, this guy's going to be our quarterback for the next decade. How good has he been in your eyes, and how much do you think he's changed Eagle fans' opinion with the way that he's played first 3 games?
So I think it's interesting, for the first time in a long time, maybe ever, I feel like the national media is more in on Jalen Hurts than Philadelphia is on Jalen Hurts yet. And I think my point of view kind of falls somewhere in the middle. I think it's still a little too early to say, like, yes, he's the guy. I want to see if he can be consistently good throughout this season, because it has only been 3 games. And we don't know just like exactly how good the Vikings are. We know the Commanders aren't good. That's not to take away from his performance. I think he's been incredible. He's doing exactly what I wanted him to do. He is proving a lot of people wrong, which we love to see. I know Jalen Hurts loves proving people wrong. He's clearly done the work. He is such a leader on and off the field. Like, I want him to be the guy. I think Philadelphia is just so jaded still from what went down with Carson Wentz, what went down with the last regime, Doug P coming back to Philly on Sunday, of course, that we don't want to like jump the gun, at least for me, and be like, yes, he's the guy, let's go all in on him just yet. But I'm so happy for Jalen Hurts. I mean, NFC Player of the Month, like, he deserves all of the credit that he's being given. I think Philadelphia fans, as you guys know, are just a little bit, I don't know, hesitant to go all in just yet.
That's because we're so used to having September Super Bowls, you know what I'm saying, that, you know, we've only had 1 Super Bowl at the end that we won. So I think that's what it is. Very cautious, you know, I mean, like, I was all in on the Phillies.
I was just going to say, like, look at the Phillies, that we have trust issues. Like, can you blame us?
Exactly. They're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me, you know, but the one thing that I do know about this team is that they're taking care of business as far as their in-house stuff. You know, they're crossing their own T's, they're dotting their own I's, which has allowed them to be a more fundamental team. And when you're fundamentally sound, you know, it usually takes over as far as, you know, on the field, because a lot of the times you may have more gifted athletes on the other side of the ball. But if you cross your T's and dot your I's, you play more disciplined football, you usually beat those type of teams because they're not disciplined. They don't understand. And this is a culture in which Nick Sirianni has bred into his guys. You know, these guys are, you know, want to cross their T's out there. Their self-evaluation is so keen, I mean, even with Jalen Hurts. And I think that's a part of what their makeup is. Jalen Hurts and the way he is perfect for Nick Sirianni, what he's trying to do, but being fundamental, and they've always left a lot of meat on the bone. This is just a great situation for them, I see, because you got such a disciplined guy at the head position, at the quarterback position, then another guy at the top, you know, with Nick Sirianni, that he breathes that into him, you know. As they go forward, you know, do you think they have this same success going forward because of this?
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring up Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, because I was actually talking about this yesterday with someone where not a Philly fan was like, well, like, I think we all still like and respect what Doug Pederson did for the city of Philadelphia, for the Eagles, like, got us a Super Bowl. But they were like, well, I mean, you guys just hired Doug Pederson 2.0 and Nick Sirianni. They're the same exact coach. And I completely disagree with that. I think Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts clearly have that locker room. They have the respect of the players, of Jalen Hurts, of his teammates, which I don't think, we all know, like, Carson Wentz, especially by the end of his time in Philly, did not have the locker room. It was fractured. And you see how that plays out on the field. I love the way Nick Sirianni coaches this team. I think he's the perfect balance of, you know, being disciplined and hard and tough on his players when he needs to be, but then also being, you know, a player's coach.
Let me ask you about the current Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff, one coach in particular, as we were just talking about relationships and how much guys value their coaches and work for their coaches, want to go out and win for their coaches. What do you think the relationship is between Jonathan Gannon and his defense right now? Second year, turned over some talent, some guys here before Gannon, now since Gannon, played for defensive guys. if we're going to do as much of a deep dive on relationship between coaches and players, what would you say the level is right now between Gannon and his defensive players?
That's interesting because we've been so critical, especially me. I don't know, Rob Ellis calls it the Gan wagon, and I've definitely not gone on the bandwagon just yet, despite their performance in the last 2 games. I've never really thought about the players' relationship with him, though. Because I think a lot of the performance that we saw in the Vikings game, I kind of chalked up less to scheme and more to the players just like balling out and being talented. Like Darius Slade just went off on Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. But I do think that he's a respected coach. Like I like Jonathan Gannon as a person. I think he's just frustrating sometimes. So what you brought up Seth Joyner earlier, watching with him, he brings up a really interesting point, and that is he watches the body language of the guys on defense and if they're communicating with each other. In particular, like the linebackers, kind of seeing what's going on the offensive side and rearranging and adjusting to that. And last season, they weren't doing that as much as they clearly are this season, and it's working. Again, I don't know if that's to Jonathan Gannon's credit or, players just clicking and maybe the chemistry is there with the communication and body language between the defense. But I would assume that they're fine with Jonathan Gannon. Seth Joyner isn't, though, can confirm that. And I don't know if I'm fully on the bandwagon yet.
Well, you know what? Seth is one of those guys that, since he's not the coach, I don't think that he could coach these modern day NFL football players because, we're from the school of all right, you're told to do it, and we're going to trust that you're telling and leading us the right way because we don't have a problem with coming back and telling you, hey, that was wrong and that's messed up. But these new athletes are all right, they want to know why. Well, we used to say, because I told you so. You know what I'm saying? Because I said why, because I know what I'm talking about. And you're trying to learn what I'm trying to give you. Mm-hmm. It's just a different way of thinking these days. But, you're right. I do see what Seth is talking about, the communication. They're starting to get better. The first game against Detroit, there wasn't a lot of conversation back there. And they needed that because CJ Gardner-Johnson didn't know the defense. Now they're starting to click for him because he now knows his run fits. He knows where he's supposed to be at. So you see that. Does he like CJ Gardner-Johnson? Is that a guy that he thinks is good for this defense? From what you know.
Fred, who? Oh, Seth Joyner?
Yes.
I thought you were talking about Jonathan Gannon at first. I'm like,
no. Forget Jonathan. I'm on Seth. Seth's my dog. I know Seth.
Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, Seth is usually watching more the defensive line, more so than the secondary. I love CJ Gardner-Johnson, especially now that I know how to say his name properly. It was there at first. In Philly, we love the mouthy players. We love the guys who aren't afraid to kind of talk back and have that swagger, that attitude. And he's clicked with the defense so fast. Like he came in and I was not worried for 1 second that he would take a lot of time to adjust to this defensive scheme. So I'm a fan of him. Seth usually focuses more on what's happening on like the line up front.
Now, here's the Seth Joyner question and all Seth Joyner questions. Edwards, linebacker, Seth's position, the position he knows better than any other because he played it dominantly in the league for a year. He's been dynamite the first 3 weeks of the season. Mac, my buddy Johnny Mac and I are both big Edwards fans. I was the first one to say last year they should give him a contract extension. They did, only for 1 year. Howie, you should have got about 3 or 4 years. You wouldn't have to worry about it now this offseason. But Edwards has been dynamite the first 3 weeks. Has Seth, as good a linebacker critic as there is, bought into Edwards being one of the better middle linebackers in the league?
Yes, I think as far as praise goes with Seth Joyner, he's given Edwards the most praise possible in terms of Joyner words. But I mean, how can you not be a fan of TJ Edwards and what he's done so far this season? Like, it's been so long since the Eagles have even had linebackers that you see being somewhat productive out on the field. So I love to see it. I love what Edwards has done. I like watching the defense improve is enough for me to kind of start to buy into Jonathan Gannon. Just seeing that improvement, especially from the Lions game 1, when we were all kind of freaking out that they allowed the Lions to put up 35 points. And then now we see what the Lions have gone on to do. It makes me feel a little bit better about what we did in that first game. Now I think we just need defense to continue what they're doing and the offense to put up more points in the second half.
Absolutely. But I am thinking about, Nick Sirianni and Doug facing off. What do you think the reception is? How is Nick going to talk about this? Because they're going to give him a standing ovation. Hell, his statue is out front.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
that
think
he's never seen, apparently?
Yeah,
come on now. I was there for a year. The semantics, I don't want to, but seriously, the reception he's going to get. Mm-hmm. How do you think Nick Sirianni is going to feel about that? Because I mean, I think it's going to be off the chain. I mean, it's going to be a roar. It's going to, everybody's going to say, "Hey, Doug, we love you." You know what I'm saying? But then they'll get to business. But how do you think he's going to deal with that?
I think he'll be okay with it. Nick Sirianni.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
No, that's like if it's my ex-girlfriend coming to town, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be cheering her on. No,
Yeah, Philly has really seen a lot of their exes recently. Kind of crazy. And it's funny to see the different reactions to all the different exes. Like Doug Pederson's the ex that we're like still in good standing with,
right.
But you wish them well.
Carson's a bad ex. We don't like him at all.
Oh no, not at all. Carson and us did not part on. But yeah, then we got the upper hand in that Carson breakup for sure.
No question.
So I agree actually. Like if I was Nick Sirianni, I would be pretty. I don't know if jealous is the right word, but like
it'd be a little bit of that in there. I'd be a little green. I'd be a little pissed off too.
Yeah,
I might have said something about it.
It's like if you think about it in terms of exes, it's like okay, well I'm the current one. Like I can respect her or him for what he did. He brought his Super Bowl to Philly. Like maybe I want to try to emulate that. Like maybe it would be more motivation for me to try to bring another Super Bowl to be that revered in Philadelphia.
I want my guys to go.
Nick Sirianni's a competitor. Like, I think if anything, it'll just add more fire to his game plan. Like, he's going to want to get a win as always, but maybe it'll give him a little extra push.
Exactly. If I'm Nick Sirianni, for the first 30 seconds when they introduce Doug Pederson, he's going to get all the love. The next 59 minutes plus, everybody's going to be rooting for you, Nick. So don't sweat it, buddy. You compared the two amount of time the fans will be backing you. You're going to have a massive win over Doug Pederson. All right, last thing, Dev. Two-part question would take them in stages. First, number one, are the Eagles going to 4-0? We're coming full circle to the first question I asked you, and how easy and or difficult is it going to be? How close is it going to be? Or you got the Eagles coming up on the short end of the stick, first loss of the year. How do you see it playing Sunday?
I think the Eagles have to lose eventually. I think that they win this game, but it's going to be closer than we want it to be. The Jags defense stacks up really well against the Eagles offense. They have the best rushing defense in the league right now. Jalen Hurts is going to have to put the ball in the air a lot. So a lot of it's going to come down to how well Jalen Hurts plays, how well and accurately he can throw the ball, how well he can see the field on Sunday. Doug Pederson is also, I know it's a totally different coaching staff, but like he's familiar with Philly. He's familiar with the fans. Like the home field advantage thing probably isn't a factor, at least in Doug Pederson's mind, coming into the link on Sunday. I said before the season started, he's the perfect coach for Trevor Lawrence. And we're seeing that. Like this Jags team should be taken seriously. The Eagles don't have that short turnaround like they had going into last Sunday's game. And if we see them put together a full 4 quarters, which we haven't fully seen yet, and I know the last 2 have been blowouts, so it's okay. It's easier to swallow, but we do need to see that against this Jags team. I think the Eagles can get a win, but it'll be a close one for sure.
Fair enough. All right. And if they do win, which you're leaning toward them winning, I'm leaning toward them winning. Johnny Mack is leaning toward them winning. Barrett isn't on the record yet, but listening to what he said so far here, I think we're across the board believing the Eagles are going to win on Sunday. If they're 4-0 and they're the only 4-0 team in the National Football League, they are officially the hunted. They are no longer the hunters. They are no longer the team, the little engine that could. Mm-hmm. They can try and go there, but it doesn't watch when you're the only undefeated team in the NFL. Are they built to do that? To be the team playing from in front, to be the team that everybody's gunning for because they've got the best record in the National Football League?
Well, from what we've seen throughout last season and this season, like they're not a team that comes back from being down. So I'll take being ahead, whether it's in a record or in an individual game. But how crazy is it? Like even last night after the Dolphins lost, and like, it's almost hard to celebrate the Eagles being the only undefeated team left in the league after what happened to Tua last night. But like,
no,
it's insane. Like I woke up this morning. I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking at my notes where it still says Eagles, one of 2 undefeated teams in the league. I'm like, how did we get here? Like who would have thought Eagles would be the only undefeated team? But it's scary, you know, going back to what I said earlier in the show, we're not used to that here in Philadelphia. So I think if we can kind of just like temper our expectations, at least for me, like be cautiously optimistic, we'll be okay. And keep Jalen Hurts healthy, please.
That's the biggest thing right there. Stay healthy, and I think they'll be okay. You know, I know they'll be okay. Just like I said, I mean, I've been on the record of saying, look, when I sat back and after the Detroit game, I said, look, it doesn't matter who these guys play next. It could have been the Bills. They would have beat the Bills on the second game after the performance they had against Detroit. You know, because from a man to a man, everybody's like, look, we played atrocious. We still won the game, but we didn't play right. I mean, the offensive line coach went off. Those guys played better. The corners and safeties didn't tackle well. They went off the next game, shut down the best receiver in the league. It's just they cross their T's and dot their I's, and I love the fact that this team is built like that. They take care of their own house, and then they worry about going into and playing a game on Sunday.
Yeah, what was the quote that who went off on Jalen Hurts' quote? Like, we don't like adjust to the temperature, we set the thermometer or something.
Yes,
like,
that's great right there. Yeah,
I definitely just butchered his quote, but you know what I mean. I loved hearing that, and I think that as long as they set the temperature, like they're the ones kind of deciding the game and how it's going to play out, they're going to keep winning. Like this team is talented, and we love to see it.
All right, I lied. I got one more question for you.
Okay, hit me.
Do you know what bling you will be sporting from Mark Jewelers on Sunday? Or do you not know like everybody else and have to wait till Sunday to find out?
I actually don't know. So last week I texted Joe, the head of the postgame show, and he told me, because I need to plan ahead. Like I need to adjust what I'm wearing. It depends. Like last week I wore big hoop earrings. So like the neckline matters. So thank you for reminding me. I'm going to shoot a text over to him. Sometimes I'm surprised, and sometimes I get to know ahead. So we'll see.
And everyone will know as of Sunday when they tune in here for the Eagles postgame show on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. And certainly Devin will be a big part of it. Thanks for being a part of our show today, Deb. We'll get you back on again soon enough. Thanks, dear.
Of course. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Have a good one, Deb.